Okay, we are gonna discuss this new paper on acoustic super-radiance as an explanation for quantum brain dynamics. And I had emailed Professor Jack Giudice about this paper. I want to first of all thank one of my YouTube followers or subscribers who made a comment that inspired me to look this paper up, and I realized it is corroboration of Andrea Puharich's big research model based on water memory and a what he called Psi plasma, which would be a non-local information storage for memory. And so essentially they've upgraded his research using more accurate quantum physics to explain the same secret of what Puharich called the phonon-hydron model or effect, something like that, the hydrophonon effect. Anyway, let's just get into this paper. I found 3 different video lectures by the lead author of the paper, and he's a Japanese scientist, so his last name is Nishiyama. And so I listened to all 3 of those and started to get a better idea of what the paper's about. And essentially they're saying they can, hack the memory system of people's brains by understanding this secret. And so this is basically the actual matrix plan latest research. And let's just go to the graphics because that gets into the details better. Let's see if I can. Okay, so what's ironic here is that when you have the breakdown of the symmetry of the water molecule, that's when you get the coherence of the photon information that's actually super radiant coherence from the vacuum. And this is how the memories are stored essentially in our soul, what we call our soul in religion. And that's what makes this super fascinating research. And what's awesome is that this is, what I've been researching. Like I said, I sent the book to Jack Giudice, but I'll have to send it to Nishiyama in Japan. Okay, so what they discovered in this paper is that when you're dealing with the microtubules in the brain, the diameter of the microtubule as a measurement of water density is able to then resonate acoustic energy to then cause this splitting of the water, what they call the easy water, so that you get this resonance with the vacuum as a super-radiant acoustic information, and that will then store the what they're calling evanescent photon, which is a photon with a gravitational mass, or it's also called a virtual photon. So I'll just quote from the paper: since the modulation of the water density affects the transmittance of light, acoustic holography might be tightly correlated with optical holography. And this is what Andrea Puharich also figured out. That's why he called it the hadron photon effect or something. I can look up the name of it again, but it's in my book too. And so they're calling this acoustic super-radiance. And he's got a couple different, this is from one of his talks, and then he has an earlier talk where he has the same slide, and they're slightly different. And that's what's fascinating, is because this earlier slide, he doesn't mention super-radiance, but in the later slide, he's got the super-radiance in here. So you have this water in the microtubule, and the density, the diameter of the microtubule, they've done the calculation where the energy, like I said, what you have in the breakdown of the symmetry of the water to create this vacuum coherence is both a rotational breakdown and a translational breakdown, and that's what creates that. What they even call it a torus at one point, a toroid, but it's a non-commutative toroid because you're getting that breakdown of symmetry. So it's a non-commutative donut or toroid that then has this super-radiance that's longitudinal in the microtubule, along with the rotational energy. And this water energy then interacts with the light that then gets stored in the microtubules via the tubulin. So this model is integrated with the Stuart Hameroff, Roger Penrose model of the tubulin inside the microtubules. Okay, so so the photon fields couple with the charge of the flow of charge, and the sound, the acoustic fields couple with the density of the charge, the gradient. So that density is where you're getting that gravitational mass of the photons, the evanescent photons or virtual photons. So this is what Roger Penrose calls the negative resonance. You could also just call it a negative frequency. Water can be viewed as a source of both coherent light and sound. This is the super-radiance, and also the potential medium for memory storage. And the super-radiance can there be regarded as the mechanism for the formation of the coherent light and sound in holographic information processing. So the coherence is what Louis de Broglie called the law of phase harmony, meaning the coherence is this actual non-locality as the breakdown of the symmetry, the non-commutativity. And so that's what makes this such a beautiful model, because it completely corroborates what I've been saying, and it also builds on Dr. Man Ho's claims about water being the source of the yang qi in the body, from the splitting through the acoustic vibration and as quantum coherence. But the problem is that Dr. Man Ho didn't realize that this coherence is actually due to the breakdown of the symmetry as non-commutativity. So this is why the fact that they realize that it's the breakdown of the symmetry that causes the coherence, that's the true quantum non-commutative secret right here, where you get this non-commutative toroid torus. Okay, so that's why this is very exciting. So the sound waves induce density gradients of the water molecules, and the transmittance of sound will change the density gradients. And so that's why they're calling it acoustic super-radiance, because it's driven by the this sound that then creates a super luminal, a super-radiance, meaning the phonon, the negative frequency, has a time reversed signal that's then holographic, and that's how you would get the precognitive information as well. Of course, they don't talk about that, but that's what Roger Penrose talks about, it being precognitive. And yeah, they're relying on Del Giudice, who is also the main source that Dr. Man Ho was relying on. And so, let's see, here's more on the talks. So by non-equilibrium, they means it's an open system. What he calls, because it's open, therefore you don't have this decoherence problem in terms of the maintaining the coherence, because you're having this constant flow of information, even though it maintains the stability of the phase, unless you have this change in your memory. So it's like it maintains stability, but it also is open for change. So the way they model it with the physics, I mean, obviously you could use different math and different physics, but they're getting the gist of it. So that's the crucial points. They understand the concepts. So here again we have this triggering the breakdown of the symmetry, the rotational symmetry, because you have this interaction between translational and rotational from the energy of the water, and then that will either emit the as a recall, retrieving memories, or then you can store it as coherent virtual photons, or what they call evanescent photons. And then the memory would be printed inside the microtubule. That's how I was saying this combines with Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose's model of the tubulin inside the microtubules. And what's interesting about that is previously Stuart Hameroff was like dismissive of water. He's like, his model is not about the water. But then he admitted, I don't know, like a couple of years ago, that water probably does play some part in what their model is about, because their whole point is that the inside of the microtubules is hydrophobic, meaning there's no water in there with the tubulin, and that's how you're able to maintain the quantum coherence for a longer time period. It's because you don't have the water in there. But their point is that even though this is an open system, once you store the memory, then you get that long-term memory. Okay, so so then they're saying that the water would act as a way to retrieve the memories and also to store more memories. And and in this way, it's like, it's holographic. And you can, rely on the change of the phase and amplitude and frequency. And so this is where they talk about the evanescent photons, which is just more of a classical physics way of what they call virtual photons. So the photons have gravitational mass. You could also call it kinetic mass if you wanted, I guess. Let's see. So here they're talking about, again, the memory storage is through the evanescent photons, which is super-radiance because it's non-local. It's superluminal. And then you have the memory retrieval. And so they talk about this. They use a Schrodinger equation. So you have expectation values, but then you also have a matrices. You could look at it as matrices. So the water energy from the acoustic super-radiance gets converted into these coherent fields as the memory storage. That's what this is explaining, this in terms of entropy. And then, so that here they're getting into the radial direction of the microtubule might induce the coherent super-radiance emission in the parallel direction of the microtubule. This is something I've talked about before because there's been another Japanese scientist that made this similar claim about the microtubules having this super radiance. And then Anirban Banyopai also confirmed this experimentally recently, just like a year ago. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. The inner surface of the microtubule, it has the 0 point. It's like eternal coherence, because it's 0 point. And then they're saying that they can, the next kind of research they want to do is to try to manipulate this using experiments of light and sound on the scalp. And that's where it gets pretty scary because they're trying to like mess with people's memories or delete them or retrieve them or whatever, and essentially hacking the matrix. But this is what you do in yoga meditation directly, as my training manual gets into. The photon density of acoustic super-radiance is the order of the density of the water in the liquid state. The energy scales required correspond to energy difference of water rotational degrees of freedom. And of course they have more details in their paper. And so they're saying acoustic super-radiance is, essentially a way to solve the binding problem, which is another way of calling it the hard problem of consciousness for qualia. So there you go, and we can link to the paper. I'll put this in the description, of course, the video description, and there's the paper. And then anybody can download it, it's open read. So, super-radiance. So this would be your super-radiance, is the longitudinal, and then the water molecules are inside is the rotational. This is translational, this is rotational. And then let's see what other kind of images they have. So I guess that's the only image in their paper. It just got published like a couple months ago. June. Okay, thanks for your time.